face and start kicking ass, just like it said at the beginning of the program.
Man of the hour, tower of power, too sweet to be sour.
Sending your ass on the jabroni jet to the other side of the territory, brother. The Alabama Hammer.
Nightmares are the best part of my day.
The goods from the wood.
Hot damn!
Welcome to the Goods from the Woods. My name is Rivers Langley.
I am Pat Riley.
This is a good night, man of the hour, tower of power, too sweet to be sour.
And today we are so thrilled to be joined by our very special guest from Atlanta, Georgia. Ladies and gentlemen, it's
Lace Larrabee.
Yeah, man.
I'm not Atlanta
Jordan.
Atlanta, Jordan,
Yeah. Very far away from Atlanta, Georgia.
Yeah, Atlanta,
Jordan.
So what's it like in the Middle East?
Yeah.
It's hot during the day and it's real cold at night. A lot like here.
I was actually just down in your neck of the woods recently. Wanted to send a real special congratulations and a shout out to two former guests of the show, good friends of ours, Wes Van Horn and Kristen Rand. Got married last weekend down there in Birmingham. So
Heck yeah.
Congrats to you guys. Just wanted to say
I
that.
saw the photos of it.
I heard they had a real good time.
Yeah, I'd imagine
And the weather
so.
was wonderful.
Dear Lord, the food! Oh my God, it's my favorite thing about being back in that area is just being able to go in on some macaroni and cheese and some fried chicken, and also the only fashion faux pas of the whole ceremony was Kyle Kinane and Sam Talent showed up wearing the same outfit. Pink Western cut shirt with a bolo tie.
Oh, tremendous.
There's a picture of it on Instagram.
It was from the Paul Jones collection.
Yeah. It was. It was really.
I would imagine Kyle Kinane at the state of his career that he's in would have had like a full Graham Parsons nudie suit at this point. Like I imagine that would be like the first thing that he would buy.
Where in Georgia? You said I think I heard you say Warner Robins. Is that where you grew up?
Warner Robins.
Are you from Georgia?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. No, I've driven through Warner Robins a number of times.
Yeah.
Because you go through. That's what I always stopped at, that Flying J Arby's. When I would drive home, it was like across the street from the really sketchy truck stop strip club.
Oh yeah. Well, that strip club is actually how we always knew that we were close to our grandparents' house.
Okay.
When we were kids, so because we lived in Warner Robins until I was like 6 or 7, and then we moved to North Georgia. So we moved up to Cumming.
Gotcha.
And we would go back and visit my grandparents and all my aunts and uncles down in Warner Robins, and they're all still there. But yeah, there would be, as soon as we started seeing those, We Bear All.
Yeah.
Or my favorite
We
one.
dare to bear.
Yeah. My favorite one was Strippers, Need We Say More?
Oh.
And that's how we knew we were getting close to Grandma and Grandpa's house.
Yeah, because it goes in waves when you go down 75, because there's like the We Bear All, Strippers Near We Say More, and then there was like, if you go a little bit further south, you would get either Cutter's Buffet or Love Stuff. Which was which is, it looks like a shipping container that's been converted into a building. You know?
And then if you go the other way back towards Macon, it's just nothing but Happy Hand Spas.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah. It'll be like Jade Day Spa, truckers parking.
Well, I was going to say, a lot of truckers down there on that I-75 corridor. Look at lonely times out on the road.
Yeah. But no, that's where, so my parents are both of their parents were in the military. So so that's how my parents met there. And then
is there a base down there? Or
it's Air Force Base.
Oh,
yeah, Robins Air Force Base.
Robins Air Force Base.
Gotcha. Okay.
Yeah.
I think we went there. We played somebody over there in like a football something.
Sounds about right. No, that's a huge football town.
Yeah.
Yeah, and Warner Robins High School is like nationally known for football.
I thought it was when you said Warner Robins, ain't that a football thing?
Yeah. That's where Ron Simmons went to high school and stuff like that.
Oh,
so yeah,
there you go.
That's the only football player I know from Warner Robins.
So you have to know.
Yeah.
My dad played football at Warner
Well,
Robins.
there we go.
You have to know.
Mr. Larrabee.
That's right. But then he knocked up my mom and he had to quit. So.
Okay.
Are you related by any chance, if you don't mind my asking, to that guy on Get Smart?
Oh, they actually spelled Larrabee differently. In
Did
that.
they? Okay, so
No.
that answers that.
And also, that was a character, so I wouldn't be related to that fictional dude.
But it could have been based on a real person.
Could have been. There are
Real spy stuff.
Get Smart could have been a documentary. Who's to say?
Could have been.
I know, because it was really
I
similar to Inspector Gadget.
I don't
so-
want to break it to you, good night, but 99 isn't a real person.
Does that mean she's not married and she's still on the market?
So you're saying there's a chance.
Well, she's probably pretty old. She probably's about 99 now. But she looked real good then.
But yeah, no, it always bothered me that they spelled Larrabee wrong because I always wanted to be like, oh, that's totally like.
So you wanted in on it too?
I ddid. I totally did. Yeah, I used to watch it on Nick at Night, and I was like, yeah, real into that. Because that was the first time I'd ever seen my last name anywhere else.
I want to make clear when I said we were there to play. I don't mean football. I mean I was there to play the tuba behind the football team.
Right.
Yeah.
No,
Yeah.
but just wanted
I was
Rivers was in the band.
just wanted to clear that up.
Hey, I mean, a tuba player can be crucial to the way a football game turns out. There was that Cal Stanford game. Tuba player was a huge factor in that game.
What happened?
Oh, you've never seen that?
No.
Okay.
I haven't either.
Okay, so this is great. So John Elway's last college game, he played for Stanford, and they had this big feud with University of California, Berkeley, and Stanford was supposed to be the team, and Cal was not supposed to be particularly good that year, but they were overachieving, and they got to the last game of the year, and it was John Elway's final game in college.
Right.
And the thing with John Elway is that his dad was like really overbearing. So like the way in which Archie Manning is overbearing for his sons, John Elway's dad, Mr. Elway, was like that with John Elway. And the last moment of the game, Stanford had scored to go ahead. And basically the only way in which Cal could win was to win on a kickoff.
Yeah.
So they kick the ball off, and Cal decides to do the thing where they start lateraling the ball and throwing it backwards and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And finally one guy breaks through, and he goes down the field. And then as he goes down the field, you see the University of California's marching band on the field because they thought they had won.
Oh, shit.
And basically this guy just plows over like five players, and he like scores a touchdown and jumps up in glee, and he just totally like crushes a French horn player.
Oh, no.
So he's up in the air, and there's this famous photo where this guy's like, yeah, and he just like gets like, there's this like French horn player that's just like crushed by this giant dude.
No one threw a flag on this.
No.
I've seen it, and I was always amazed at that fact.
So there weren't players on the field. That's the distinction, right? It's like in Happy Gilmore. You got to play off of the
you
field.
could have been the decisive factor in that game, Rivers.
I was going to say, I should have
Really
prematurely run onto the field by the end of that season.
Yeah, you weren't born yet, but you could have done that.
So was the band part of the team that won?
No, they were the band that
So
of
it
the
was
team
the
that
other
lost.
team.
Yeah.
That
Ooh.
makes it worse.
The ball is still loose as they get it to Rogers. They give it back now to the 30. They're down to the 20. Oh, the band is out on the field. He's going to go into the end zone. He's going into the end of the Bears. The Bears have won. The Bears have won. Oh, my God. The most amazing, sensational, dramatic, heart-rending, exciting, thrilling finish in the history of college football.
I am much more fascinated at the fact that you just could recount that entire game from late 70s. When was that?
It was
game?
1982, I think it was. Or
And he has an
83.
encyclopedic knowledge of the Georgia highway system.
I know. Or at least they're billboards,
Ask him what the guy from the Misfits is up to, too, because he stalks that guy.
But no. I mean,
What do you not know?
I know about those three things.
Those three things.
Maybe
that's
like
it.
trains, bus schedules.
That's always so fascinating to me when sports fans can just like totally recount like an entire game.
It's almost like autism. Or
it is. It is
specific autism. It's like sports specific autism. My dad has that.
Well, the great thing about sports is you're never a nerd or autistic, no matter how much you know.
Right.
I
know it's sports, so it's better. But here's all the details, everybody's names, every single stat from the last 45 years.
Yeah,
I've got stored in my mind
because it's the ultimate form of small talk. Really,
It really is.
it's like, and there's so many times where I've been in like situations where I've like like emergency ingratiating myself to somebody, being like, "Oh, you're wearing," and you like scan for whatever sports logos you can possibly find. It's like NASCAR. Okay, click, click, click. So this guy doesn't beat the shit out of me. You know?
Oh, wow.
We can relate to each other on a Bobby Labonte level or something. You know?
Yeah. See, women do this thing where we just have real, natural, genuine conversations.
Yeah.
Y'all don't look at each other's handbags and start talking about that stuff?
No.
So we go weather is like the standard, and then sports is the next
Yeah.
step
Yeah,
up.
well, traffic's in there too, like routes to work and stuff like that.
I think that's an LA thing more than the rest of the country.
I guess so.
But you don't want to get in the handbag conversation with a woman, though, because most likely it's a fake, or she just doesn't want to talk. She was hoping nobody would notice it anyway. So
I didn't know that because I was going to use Pat's idea to go up to the ladies. Oh, Fendi, that's good stuff. They got an outlet in Las Vegas, so
now I guess we kind of do that stuff too with clothes and all that. But yeah, usually I don't know. Y'all always just can go to sports, and then I just start to drift off in my mind.
Yeah,
kind of like I did.
Rivers can't though. He was in the band.
I'm glad
Rivers has to talk tuba with people.
Yeah.
Well, I cheered, so I was also.
I'm glad that I isolated everybody from the conversation except for myself.
We really do.
So wait, do you cheer through high school?
Yeah. I started. Yeah, well, that's how my parents met. My mom was a cheerleader. My dad was a football player, and then so when I was little, my mom was our cheerleading coach, like at rec department cheerleading.
Okay.
Yeah, so she coached our team. And then when I just kept it going. When I got into school, I got onto my team in middle school. Didn't do much, just cheered for like football and basketball. Then in high school, I spent all 4 years doing varsity competition. And I cheered for football and I cheered for basketball. And then I ended up getting on a traveling all-star team nearby.
Damn.
So that was literally my entire life.
For youth, it was like that kind of competition, extreme cheerleading that's like you see on ESPN2 or something like that. Where
Yeah, my team was like on ESPN. Like,
okay.
Yeah.
Did you guys have like a big finale? Because I don't know shit about cheerleading. All I know is the pyramid thing always looked difficult, but I assume that's pretty basic.
I don't know much about cheerleading, but I know what I like.
No. I mean, that's cool. You're trying to relate. I appreciate that.
Well, it's
really
a lot
sweet.
of like tumbling and throws and things like that.
So much.
Yeah.
I literally, so in high school, you had to do a senior project, which was kind of, I guess, supposed to be kind of like your thesis or whatever. You're supposed to come up with something. You had to pick your own topic. You spent your entire year working on it. Then you presented it to a panel that judged you, and that was a big part of like you graduating, right? So
I can imagine in those neck of the woods there were some really interesting ones amongst
yeah. Most of them included like that trifold board that was just covered in like camouflage sticky paper, and then something about a better way to shoot a deer.
This is what I killed.
My name is Lyle. I made a volcano.
Here are the things that I killed.
Yeah.
This is a raccoon. This is a deer.
Did he stick them on the board?
Yeah, he's just
got the deer hanging from it.
Yeah, he's got it all trussed up. He's like, this is how you truss up a deer.
I put the egg in the jar with water, and I put the egg in the jar with vinegar, and the shell went away on the vinegar one, and then I realized I made pickled eggs.
Oh man! But no, I went to high school. Well, yeah, that's funny because I lived in Warner Robins and we lived in Cumming, and then because people who don't know the state of Georgia or understand,
yeah, I mean Cumming
they're completely different worlds.
Oh yeah, no, absolutely, because Cumming is in Cobb. Or is it?
Oh, don't commit no crimes in Cobb County because the big boss man is there.
Yeah.
That's true. Why does everyone know that all over the entire country?
Because it's stand-up comedy, and for some reason, stand-up comedians, especially male stand-up comedians, have a weird obsession with professional wrestling.
And they really drilled it into your head too. They said, "Do not commit a crime in Cobb County, or you will do hard time." It was his theme song.
Oh. Yeah. Well, I didn't know that, but I do know that everyone gets arrested in Cobb County.
Well, it's probably the big boss man,
including myself. So,
yeah,
but that's a whole other thing. So, yeah,
hard time.
Middle school, I was in Cumming, and then halfway through, we ended up moving down to South Georgia.
Oh,
way
where at?
past Warner Robins. So I went to high school in Glenville, Georgia, 35 miles southwest of Statesboro, Georgia.
I just know the Allman Brothers song.
Statesboro Blues. Yeah.
But anyway, so in high school, we were way down there, and that my senior project was proving that cheerleading was a sport, competitive cheerleading.
Okay,
specifically. So the way it works is you've got a team, and you're competing with other teams, and you have to put together a routine, and you spend your entire freaking season working your ass off on a routine. So I would go into practice. I had to practice for multiple teams, obviously. So like after school, I was getting in the car driving 35 minutes to Statesboro for 2 full years of high school. And we would practice all night long till like 12 in the morning, you know, like midnight.
That sounds like a sport.
Actually, it was a sport, and it's tumbling. It's when you're talking about like, oh, pyramids, the girls lift each other up. Think of like a million of those in 2 minutes.
And then everybody gets thrown in the air that's in the pyramid.
I was a base, so I lifted those girls. So that was me, and I fucking loved it. I've never felt more powerful and in control, and you know, than I was when I was a cheerleader.
Did you do the thing where it was like
tumbles,
the one hand sort of thing? Were you able to do
that's illegal to do one-handed in all girl cheerleading. So no, you couldn't. I mean, technically there are some girls who can.
That's like a safety thing.
You have to have to have like a base or whatever, but usually only in co-ed cheerleading. And I don't know the rules now. I mean, I graduated high school like 2002, so this is rules change all the time, especially in competitive cheerleading, and they get tough. Like it's crazy what they can do now. Now, when I thought we were badass when we did it, and then now that I watch, I'm like, holy shit! I can't believe they're allowed to do half of those things.
It's probably like any other sport where you see like you watch like an old like football game from the 60s or whatever, and you're like,
and it looks like it's in slow motion, and they're barely hitting each other. And now,
I got 2 questions. One, how do they decide who tumbles?
Everyone has to tumble. That's not
so everybody goes all the positions. They all know every position in like a pyramid to tumble and things.
Most of them. So tumbling is
No, I'm not kidding.
What is it?
That's okay.
Yeah.
So tumbling encompasses gymnastics. So what that you're talking about, that's people like if you watch the Olympics and you watch the girls do like floor routines and they're running and flipping and doing all the stuff, that's tumbling. And then stunting is obviously all the pyramids and you're throwing girls, and that's
that's the girl that jumps. I thought that was the tumble. The girl that jumps off the top of the pyramid.
That's the fly girl.
That's a flyer. Flyer, not a fly girl. Not to be confused with the girls that danced on In Living Color.
I was going to say, Fly Girl is the,
No, I mean...
Where J-Lo got her fame.
No, I mean, that was... No, because I knew people that did compete, and they, for some reason, they called her a fly. Like, I guess that the mom had no idea of what was going on. And
well, I didn't know none of the
fell into the same trap I did.
And two, y'all was talking about cheerleading in sports. I was curious about this, because at some point, cheerleading got to be really serious business.
That happened, like, in the late 80s, So my mom cheered, like, in the early 80s in high school, and back then, same kind of thing. If you watch, like, it was just the cutest, like, real,
it was just like kids, like
the wool, like the real wool, skirts.
Well, my grandma, when she was in high school, it was like that. It was like the wool stuff, and they're just like rah rah ree, and there weren't really any rules or any kind of like standard. There wasn't a standard across the board of what cheerleaders were expected to do, and then it kind of got a little more rigorous, and throughout the time, and then my mom's years, that was a little bit more where there were rules, like simple things, like when you do a high V, like you put your arms in the air, you're this side of your fist faces forward, and that's the standard. If you don't do it that way, you're doing it wrong.
Whoa, okay.
So those rules started like kind of in the 80s, and then they started introducing like competition cheerleading, like kind of at the collegiate level first. Then off of that spurred all the competition, like all-star teams, the traveling teams, because schools wouldn't get behind it. Schools were just like, this is just some bullshit. These girls are just trying to wear short skirts and they're just dancing around. Nobody would take the time to learn about the sport that was growing and becoming this huge thing. But it encompasses everything that weightlifting encompasses and gymnastics. You've got elements of dance, but it's way more strenuous than, you got it all though, but in one routine, right? An entire team completely uniformly has to execute dances and cheers, and you're yelling shit. Do you know how hard it is to yell while you're moving your body like that? And to throw another girl, and everybody's having to yell. And the cheerleading, you never just stop and like cheer. You might be saying a chant while you're lifting a girl or throwing your body. That's pretty amazing. It was so incredible.
Cheering ain't easy. That's
competitive cheerleading's not. Yeah. And even sideline cheerleading nowadays, you see those girls and they are not fucking around.
Oh, hell no.
Well, there's like a lot of colleges have like distinctions between like the old, like a school like USC, for example, they have like the cheerleader, and then they have like the song girls, which are like kind of like the old style cheerleaders, like the Glee Club.
Yeah. So
style.
Usually, and some of them even call it like a dance. So a lot of schools have like a dance team and a cheerleading squad to distinguish. So like a dance team or something like what you're talking about, those girls would usually just dance or just yell chants. And then a cheerleading squad are the ones that are expected to like, they're stunting. They're the ones who are throwing the girls. They're lifting people. They're holding people up in the air.
The thing that I always found to be really wild is that, because I've had a lot of fits of, insomnia. And if you turn on ESPN at the times in which insomnia kicks in, it was always either competitive cheerleading or competitive board breaking. That was like the kind of period.
I was so interested
or
to
World's
see
Strongest Man.
I was so interested to see where that went when you were said I have bits of insomnia. I was like, is Pat getting into cheerleading in the middle of the night?
I sleepwop my way through. Yeah.
Your wife just comes in, Pat. You're like, yeah, we got your A. We've got your A.
Yeah. I'm just like, I'm like,
that's what you meant by getting into cheerleading in the middle of the night.
I
had a different mental image.
I just imagine you have like a yoga mat and you're just in the in the living room.
And I'm doing like, like kind of lifts and stuff with like stuffed animals or something.
Walking on your hands and shit.
The thing that always blew my mind was that you talk about the floor exercising with the tumbling passes. Those have to be like, those are choreographed and like they have to be synchronized in a way. So you have to like,
thing. When you're watching,
is unbelievable that you have that level of like choreography.
Synchronicity, and choreography. You don't even understand like what goes into that. That is not just like, oh, these girls are just randomly tumbling, or she can do what she does across the floor. Every single thing is thought of and planned, and that's why it literally takes an entire season to come up with, like, you spend that summer working, the coaches and the choreographers and everybody come up with the entire routine. Then you spend like 4 nights a week with an entire team working on that until the middle of the night, working your asses off. And if you're like our team did really well. We weren't like national champions or anything. Nowadays, that squad that I was on has multiple squads. Yeah. And they are like, they just won some national titles, which is really cool. So for this little tiny team, like out of Statesboro, Georgia. But yeah, anyway, so our coach was a badass. Like, and she would, if we fucked up, like let's say we were doing the routine all the way through and somebody made a mistake, you'd have to stop. She would make the entire team just do nonstop toe touches. She would like play a whole song. She'd like play the entire routine and you would just have to do toe touches. And toe touches, a lot of people are like, oh, bend over, touch your toes. That's not hard. No, I'm talking about like a cheerleading jump.
Jump in the air and
touch your toes, but like very, it's like tight. Like and you just do toe touches. And that literally, like the thought of that nowadays, I'm like, I would rather be put down than have to do that. Like I got drunk not too long ago and was like, oh, I could totally throw a toe touch. And I ripped a fucking muscle in my thigh.
Oh, Jesus.
And was like, oh, nope, can't do that anymore. Jesus Christ.
It was the cheer dojo or something.
I'm not kidding. Like we worked as hard. I swear I saw plenty of football practices being a cheerleader and plenty of basketball. I swear to God, we worked harder.
Oh, I bet.
Than any of those guys.
Well, that's what I was going to say.
Well, you don't get the relief of taking bumps and getting hurt.
Right.
Y'all just have to jump.
Yeah. Oh, you talking about, well, that's in those moments. But no, we got hurt all the time. I watched a girl get her fucking tooth knocked out and keep going in a routine.
Man.
Take an elbow to the face, because when a girl's coming down, when you are a base and you go to throw her and you go to catch her, she's spinning in the air. That's called a full. And most girls now, like the standard now is like a triple full or double full always. I mean, that's you got to be fucking tight and really really good at that, because if not, you move one elbow 2 inches one way and one girl's losing a tooth, an eye.
What's the worst injury you've ever seen?
The tooth flying out of that. I've watched plenty of girls break bones. Not like how sometimes, I've seen some football clips where people like have a bone
compound fracture, where it sticks out of this.
But
Burt Reynolds in Deliverance, that kind of injury.
Yeah, which is not. Honestly, girls broke stuff all the time, and I'm sure that there's been a lot of that. I'm sure you could just YouTube and find some horrible cheerleading injuries. But we were so hardcore that like we had some alternates, and one girl on our team had broken some bone in her arm, and they told her, you're not going to be able to compete at nationals. And she was like, fuck that. So she cut her own cast, and just so that she could bend her wrist. She's like, I can do this. So she cut her cast around her wrist because it went over her hand and her arm. So she's like, nope, I'm going to do it. And the coach was like, cool. Like the coach didn't even care that like her arm would probably never like heal correctly ever again. Just like, good, we don't want to lose our girl.
Yeah, we had a couple of girls that did competitive cheerleading, kind of like what you did down in Florida, and they would like randomly come to school with like braces on their wrists, on their ankles. Like one of them would just show up with like a neck brace because it was just like they strained their neck doing something. It was just like I never saw any of our football players wearing any sort of casts or
No.
boots or anything. But
Yeah.
like Desiree and Emily and all them, they were just like always something. And you just
Where
black
in
eye.
Florida? I'm curious.
Melbourne. Extreme Cheerleading, I think, was the group.
Extreme?
Yeah.
Yeah, I know that team. Yeah. I was going to say, if you were in like Miami, there's a team, and I'm not up to date on like what's going on right now in it, but there were like back then there was a team called Top Gun. And they were terrifying. They were like, if this was like
imagine.
like an 80s, if this was like an 80s movie, they're the ones that like come walking in slow motion and all.
They're the
look
snobs.
Like,
They're the Cobra Kai of
Cobra Kai. Yeah.
But they
Cobra
were
Kai.
so fucking.
I mean, they're called
good.
Top Gun for
They're
fuck's
called
sake.
Top
Yeah,
Gun.
that's badass.
They were,
Of course, they're 80s villains.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
I mean, and that was what their entire aesthetic was just like, we're better than you, and they came in with like this fucking air and this attitude, and we were all like, oh,
That's
Top
amazing.
Gun.
They were
Yeah.
the heels of the cheerleading world.
Yeah,
They're the Naval
yeah.
Academy cheerleaders.
Fucking
Yeah.
awesome. I was
But
going
yeah.
to say, I think the idea of you doing this project and having to defend cheerleading as a sport, I mean, you could tell them all the shit that you just told us, and that's more than enough of a good argument for being a serious sport. Or you could just bring in a motherfucker who plays golf and be like, listen, if this is a sport, then fucking cheerleading's a sport.
That's you don't even
golf
like,
is just a nice day outside. And
yeah.
Well, that's what a sport
I had
is.
all that on my
Yeah.
trifold board, right? So I had
Yeah.
that big, board out, and I had it all on there, and I had like a picture of a golfer and a picture of all these
a
other
bowler.
Yeah.
It's like,
I mean, some baseball players. I mean,
Oh
you
my
look
God,
at there's
yeah.
some like fat dude in
I
pajamas.
was going to
you know?
say, you can
Well,
look
that's
like
what always appealed to me about baseball.
Yeah, me too.
I mean,
You
the
could
thing that always
chew
appealed.
tobacco while you did it.
Yeah, my thing. I mean, heck, when I played intramural like baseball in college, I would smoke on the field. So I mean, I don't know if that would make it classified.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, anything you can do in smoke is something worth watching. Cheerleading and smoking, that would be something else too. But I'll be honest with you, I've been watching cheerleading for a long time. And it mostly originally had to do with the short skirts, but because I'd watched it so much, I could see like, holy cow, at some point, these girls got real serious because I
Yeah.
would see them doing things, and it wasn't just girls jumping around and stuff
No.
like you'll see sometimes in middle school. I'd see the college ones, and I was like, holy cow.
Yeah.
That looks really difficult.
Well, now there is an entirely new sport that several colleges. Last I checked, I think it was like I want to say like 8 to 15 colleges were getting involved in this sport. So what has happened is competitive cheerleading has now, it literally doesn't involve the dance or cheer portion at all. It's just fucking stunting,
Just like
and
throwing and tumbling.
over and over and over. Like these girls are scarier and like than any cheerleaders I've ever seen. Like they are beasts.
yeah.
It's
wow.
incredible though. Like it's a gymnastics team on steroids. Like, well, that's probably most gymnastics teams.
Yeah.
But like they are, but they're not just doing the floor routines, right? They are like they just power stunt like crazy, and it's one of the coolest things to watch.
I think we'll just call it power stunting.
They could call it. It's called something like acro. I don't know. It's called acro something, and it is fucking cool as shit.
I had a friend of mine when I was in middle school that was on the middle school cheer team, and she was a flyer, and it was like one of those super competitive Texas. So like there was it wasn't like, oh, we're competitive in a sports setting. It's like we're competitive in a social political setting. And there was always like the threat that like the base, like they were just like, we're not going to catch you. Like that was like, yeah, there was like this really sort of.
This sounds like Whiplash.
I know,
almost.
like yeah, no.
some real
Terrible.
sinister.
Like
people.
they wrote some like letter like that. It's
Well,
like
see,
these.
when you're talking about like school level's so different than
Yeah.
all-star stuff. That kind of shit does totally happen.
Yeah.
Because that's you're almost thinking of like it's almost like professional versus amateur. Like there, and it all depends on the coach because if the coaches are stringent. Is that the word? Stringent?
Stringent.
Stringent and strenuous.
And strenuous? Whatever. You know what I'm
Astringent,
Yeah.
like a fruit.
But if they aren't on top of every single thing that you do and you don't have rules in place, because for instance, like we had constant mantras which involved like no one hits the floor. And if somebody hit the floor, if a body part of a flyer hits the floor, you stop and you do like
Toe touches,
or you're punished. Like
Yeah.
you're off the mat for a certain amount of days or what. Like they don't let that happen. So I always enjoyed being the base more than anything.
Yeah.
Number one, because I had a huge ass, so I needed to, and number two, like no one was
balance.
No one was throwing my huge ass up in the air. But the secondly, though, because I trusted myself more than I trusted other the teamates.
Yeah.
Because I knew if that girl was, I will throw myself on the floor to catch her.
Right.
So that she never hits the floor. And I knew that I would, and I did. I took plenty of feet to the face. I got plenty of elbows to the side of my cheeks because I would, if they messed up, it was still my responsibility to make sure her ass didn't get hurt.
Yeah.
I would get hurt first.
Right,
And that's the goal.
Right.
So, but you have to have a team that's committed to that and aren't aloof.
Yeah, because I was about to say, I with the kind of competitive aspect that is in there, like I would imagine for those kind of touring teams or the teams that you were doing that were competitive, that wasn't an issue. Even with like high school football or some high school sports, whether it's cheerleading or it's like the football team or something, there is like, it's less of, you have their people in there that are in there for the local political, social thing with the parents. And that's where it like runs amok is, you know, like with the football teams, Christ, it would be like if somebody wasn't starting, like some dad would come in with a lawyer and threaten to like sue the school. That happened to my school because our football team was terrible.
Wait, you started to say buy. Did someone threaten to buy your school?
Well, I went to
I'll buy your dumb ass right now.
I went to a
I'll cut a check right now. I'll buy the fucking school.
And they're like, sir, this is a public school.
No, I went to
I'll burn it to the goddamn ground.
No, I went to a Catholic school, so it's like they could buy.
So I'll buy the church.
Hey, I'm Don Osmond. I own Don Osmond Jeep. I have enough money to buy this from the diocese. And I'll make myself Bishop Don Osmond of Gator Chrysler.
Gator Chrysler.
The Diocese of Gator Chrysler.
Oh, man.
That's a fucking movie right there, man. A guy who buys a...
Yeah.
I mean, that's what Martin Luther was going against with the Reformation, right?
Yeah, he just wanted to get over Martin Luther for Lincoln Mercury.
He was tired of indulgences and you know.
And you can see my 99 problems up on the door of Gator.
That's essentially what the Borgias did, essentially, right? The Borgias bought
they didn't sell used cars. They didn't have cars
whatever.
Are you tired of the Catholic Church selling you indulgences? Come on down to Martin Luther, Ford, Lincoln, and Mercury. I'm going to get you into heaven. Or my name's not Martin Luther.
It is a good point, though. The papacy can be bought.
Yeah.
They can.
Yeah.
And why not the used car dealer?
Yeah, that'd be amazing. I mean, shit.
I think y'all just wrote an amazing screenplay.
Forget the screenplay. Let's put a collection together and see if one of us can become the Pope. The Pope, whatever. But you can't get married, though, right? If you're the Pope.
I mean, nowadays, no.
Well, we could change that if we was the Pope, so that wouldn't even be a problem.
But this is going to take place in Florida, so you can just be the Pope.
The Pope.
Yeah, the Pope.
You just start your own.
Pope.
Instead of the Avignon papacy, it's the Ocala papacy or something like that. The Port St. Louis papacy.
They got monkeys down there in Ocala, don't they? At Silver Springs?
Yeah.
Hell yeah.
I mean, to be fair, even though he's dead, Dale Earnhardt is always going to be the Pope of Florida. So, you know.
Was Dale from Florida?
No, he was from North Carolina.
But he's still the Pope of Florida because they couldn't find one.
They couldn't find one.
It was either him or Mickey Mouse, so I'll take Dale Earnhardt too.
Poor Florida.
I know.
It's
not there.
Yeah, it's
so
like how
see.
Alexander Hamilton was really born in Barbados. It doesn't matter.
Where's the birth certificate? That's what I'd like to know.
There we go.
That was fantastic. I was going to ask you about so your fiance. Fiance. Jarrod Harris.
Oui.
Enchanté.
So our friend Joe Raines at one point was going on the road with Jarrod a lot and had some particularly interesting
stories.
Yeah, and now you're Jarrod's comedy partner.
Yeah.
And soon to be
life partner.
Forever life partner. Yeah.
I don't think Jarrod was planning on having Joe be his life partner.
No, definitely not. No.
He was testing him out. And it didn't work.
I don't want to be your wife.
Oh my God.
Oh, that's great.
Oh God. I'm so sad Joe doesn't listen to podcasts.
Does that mean we can make fun of him if he's not here?
That's great.
But anyway, enough about Joe. Do you have any
He's not listening anyway.
because Joe, the stories Joe told, and I imagine you've got some of the same stuff. Jarrod plays some weird spots.
Yeah, he used to say yes to everything.
So,
yeah.
do you have any particularly fond memories of doing the road with JH?
God, I've seriously, we've done, I mean, hundreds upon hundreds of shows together all over this fine nation. He said yes to some guy in the middle of, I want to say Indiana or Illinois, who cares? Some guy's high school reunion. Like 20 or 30 year high school reunion. Yeah, and that was out. You literally just drive and drive and drive and drive and drive and drive. There's nothing around, no civilization. Then you come upon this little tiny, main street of a town, or a little tiny town with a little main street, and then like one hotel. And it wasn't a hotel, it was a motel. And then we show up to a bar. And it looked like there might have been like 10 cars outside of it. And I was like, oh, this is going to be fucking terrible.
Oh, God.
And we go in and there's like 100 people in there. And I don't know where they came. I guess people like walked over.
Was it a clown high school reunion?
Right, exactly.
Didn't need so many cars.
Did I not mention that? It was from the clown high school.
It was clown college. It was a clown
Most of the people
From high school. That's
Interestingly enough,
Clowns are
most
really
of the people from the
competitive
high
these
school from that high school class work at
P.T. Barnum
the motel.
Vocational.
At the motel,
They
yeah.
work at the motel. They
Yeah.
live at the motel, really.
They actually live in
Yeah,
the
they get the
motel.
weekly rate.
Did I say they're behind the motel? They live behind the motel. Yeah. But
Was it one of those motels that had like the name that it previously was like a franchise for Ramada?
You
and
could
they like
still see
Yeah, you could still see it, and then it's just
the
like
shadow of the old name on it.
Where it's burned in by the sun.
Yeah. But they didn't have money to cover it with just one coat of paint. So
Right,
they just
right.
put the new name on top of it
the one
instead.
in where I went to high school, it was a Ramada, and the guy like kind of messed with the letters a little bit, and it became the Ram Dawson. Ram Dawson.
Those are the guys that did Duhas Mitch, right?
No, he's that guy that he's like
Ram Dass.
It's like a German transcendental meditation metal band.
Oh my God.
Welcome to Nine. Well, welcome to our hotel. It is nine to stay here at night.
Rama Dawson. God damn it. That's funny as shit.
But how was the gig?
The gig was, we got money, so that was
a good gig.
The check went through, so that was awesome. No, the guy was really nice, but like they did zero amount of research on the one guy just knew Jarrod, right? So he had seen Jarrod perform and like I think he had him do another thing before, and then for me, they just picked like a photo that I had like recently been tagged in on Facebook. So literally like a photo of like candid mid talking to someone. It was blurry as shit. Like they tried to enhance this terrible low resolution candid photo of me and then just put Lace. Didn't even put my last name on there. So I was just like really, an afterthought, I guess. And so I had to open for him with no one in front of me because clearly, no other
Maybe they thought it was Lace the American Gladiator or
right,
something.
yeah.
Oh, she looks young.
Oh man, yeah, I wish. They talked through the whole thing and they thought, well, it was for them and they were all drunk.
Yeah.
They probably showed up drunk. It was, I don't know. It wasn't.
I did a
wasn't
Moose
awesome.
Lodge that was like that once.
Yeah.
They're all talking to themselves.
But it's a private gig, so you can't there's not much you can do, and you can't I tried my best. They really enjoyed Jarrod, the ones that were listening, but it was really more of the location of that gig than the actual gig itself.
Yeah.
It's like we did it, we got through it, it was fine. They tried to buy us all drinks after, which was nice. But yeah, we've gone everywhere. He did a gig in a basement of this really nice house for this a surprise birthday party, right? For this guy. All sounds great. Surprise birthday comedy show.
Yeah.
However, the entire family, including the birthday man himself, were Indian.
Okay.
Not like, oh, they're Indian, because their parents were from India. No, mostly everyone in the room was from India.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
So real thick accents.
Right.
And then most of I was like, oh no, this is not going to be good. This is going to be terrible. This is going to go. They fucking loved
Oh, yeah.
Oh,
it.
hell yeah.
They loved Jarrod. They got all his Southern shit, all his all his really, because his jokes are really layered and
So they
have a lot to do with being Southern. And
Right.
and they fucking laughed their asses off.
Oh, that's awesome.
Oh, I mean, people from India are really fun. They like
they
having
are.
a really
They
great
love
time.
having a good time.
Probably more so than any other like nationality that I found. Like
absolutely.
Indians just love to have fun.
Fucking love having fun.
and they know how to have fun.
And there's the thing, the party was awesome. They had quite a spread. Like the food was incredible. The drinks were fucking flowing. It was a good time. And then I was like, this is going to end very poorly because he's going to start talking and they're going to like have to fake smile because they're not going to get all the nuances. They didn't give a shit. They had a blast. I don't know if they were just laughing because of his like cadence or what it was, but they just, it seemed like they really, really enjoyed all his stuff.
But they all lived there, right?
In Georgia or wherever we were.
Right.
Yeah.
So I'm sure, you know, you live in a place for even a minute, you're going to kind of pick up on local humor. Yeah.
But they were also all super, super rich too. So that was the other thing.
Oh, nice.
That's the other reason that I was like, all right, they're out of our class. They're also not like, you know, I was like, oh, this is going to go wet. Then they loved it. It was great.
I can't even, and I've asked, do you know Neil, obviously, and Tushar.
Neil was actually the guy who, this was one of his relatives was the one. I'm not even kidding. So he was like, hey, you know, some cousin or something is having this, she's trying to throw a birthday party for her husband. And, you know, you should go. They want a comedian, so you should go do it. And I was like, Jarrod, this is not going to go. And Neil is the coolest human being that ever existed. But
I was trying to get them to approximate this because I can't. I can do a Southern accent properly. I can't do, nor will I attempt an Indian accent. But I was doing a show in Mississippi, and I stopped to get gas right at the Mississippi-Alabama line, and I went inside to this convenience store, and the guy running the counter was an Indian man with a perfectly right down the middle, half Indian, half like West Alabama accent. And it's like the craziest thing I've ever heard,
amazing.
But I can't even recreate it. So I was trying to tell Tushar because he's from Alabama. I was like, can you do like your parents and like the dudes you grew up with at the same time? And he was trying to do it. Couldn't nail it, but at some point I wanted to go do that gig again. It was in Columbus, Mississippi, and I want to stop at that gas station just to like interview that guy.
I love everything about that.
You'll have to secretly record him next time.
No, you go and you tell the people. You're like, no, listen, we got to record this because we've never heard this accent.
I've never heard this in my life.
You can like lie and say you're from like the Smithsonian or something like that.
Yeah, that'd be cool. But we've done a lot of great gigs together. It's so easy to travel with him. That's how I mean, he's super weird, right? Super weird, and he's got a lot. But I am totally cool with all his weirdness, and he's totally cool with all my weirdness, and it just works really well.
That's so awesome.
Like, the first time he'd ever taken me on the road, we went to Minnesota.
Okay.
So we had a gig outside of Minneapolis, and we were driving there. And that was the first time we went on the road together. So
that's Georgia.
Like, from Georgia.
That's what, 20 hours?
Yeah, that's like that's more than an 18-hour drive, like one way. And we decided, we took our dog. Well, she was my dog only at the time. So we take her, and this is when she started developing panic attacks.
Oh, shit.
Traveling panic attacks.
The dog?
Yeah, my dog. So this is the first time that it ever happened. I'd had her for 4 years.
What type of dog is it?
Just a little terrier mix.
Okay.
Like some terrier poodle.
Okay.
Situation.
For a second there, I imagined some like giant like Labrador retriever
That'd
just
be even
having
worse,
a Rottweiler just like
any dog having a fucking panic attack in the car is it's you love her so much, and you're like, what if she jumped out of the window? What if it'd be fine. It's so, I mean, it's so bad. Like it stresses everyone out. It stresses her out. So we got to the point where we started having to sedate her if we ever took her on the road, but that was the first time, and I'd never dealt with it before. So she's panicking and panting and freaking out. And to watch him calmly deal with her, and then for us to have made it all the way there with literally, and we get there and it's fucking snowing, and there's so much snow, it's freezing. Oh, this was December when we went.
Oh yeah, great time to be in Minnesota.
Great time. And so literally all the factors, lined up for this to could have turned out to be a nightmare trip, and then us never talk to each other again afterward. Right. Oh, and our show was at a VFW. It was like multiple. We had multiple VFW shows that weekend, and so awesome. And it was awesome. We survived, and we had a good time, and we always either had something to talk about, or we very easily were like, "Cool, you do your thing, I'm gonna do mine." We put on our headphones. He listens to his, creepy ghost music, is what I call it. It's like,
what is ghost music?
Ghost. I don't know. He listens to shoegaze, so it sounds like a bunch of fucking.
Okay, Jesus and Mary Jane and shit like that.
I was just imagining like him listening to Calliope music or something.
I'm just
music.
It sounds
Asses
like
Vincent Price's Calliope. Welcome to my ghost music.
Yeah. It's like if you went to a haunted house, like whatever that soundtrack for like
What, the Disney one?
like the, no, like
999.
like when you used to go trick or treating and like the cool neighbors would have like their house all decorated and they'd have like a boom box.
It's
with
Ram-
ghost music.
Oh, with the ghost Halloween fart tape?
No, it's Ram Dass.
No, I would.
Are they not ghost music?
That's a callback to an old. We did an episode way back about, and Rivers had all these tapes of Halloween scary music with farts up in them.
Someone
That's
put this out.
funny.
Yeah,
Yeah.
somebody did it.
Like, whoop.
Literally.
That's exactly what it sounded
Yeah,
like.
go back in the
That
archives.
makes me very happy.
Halloween episode, the first Halloween episode. From
Oh my
Yeah,
god.
and this,
2013.
and this wasn't like parody lyrics for Monster Mash or something like
No.
that. This was just like spooky stuff, and then it was just like spooky instrumentals with just farts over it. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's incredible. I love everything about that. But yeah, he'll listen to his shit. I'll listen to mine, and then if I want to stop, he's if you're on the road with people, it could be horrible or awesome, and
Right.
some people are just like, no, I don't feel like stopping now, or they need to stop too many times, or they don't stop enough, or
Yeah.
you just have it's always an awkward conversation. You can't agree on where to eat or what to do. And
It's hard to find good traveling
it
companions.
really is.
It really is.
And it sounds like it could be so simple, and then and there's a lot of times it's not. And with him, it was just so easy.
Such a pleasure to come home because I have a very special love for this city.
There was one place. Oh, I can talk about this because this guy, I'm sure he never did comedy after this night. We were going through New Mexico or something like that. And so another private gig, some guy that he had met doing shows at some point, he was like, oh, I love you, man. I want to bring you out here. How much would it cost for you to stop by? It was like in Lubbock. Stop in Lubbock, Texas. And so he's like, yeah, we could do that for this amount of money. And he's like, yeah, I can do that. So I think it was that guy's birthday, and he wanted to pay to have him come through and do a private show for him at a bar. So we show up in Lubbock, where the Buddy Holly Museum is. I don't know if you all know
that's where
this.
he's from.
That's where
That's where he's from. So it's literally was like right next door to where we were performing. So we show up to this little hole in the wall bar. There's like 4 people in there. Okay.
Oh God.
So we get in, and this guy who booked him knows nothing about comedy. Just knows he likes Jarrod, and I'm supposed to open for him. And then I go in. His buddy's like, oh, okay, or this guy is like, all right, I've got another guy. He's going to open. He's going to go up first. And I was like, oh, is he? All right, cool. Is he a comic? He's like, well, yeah. And I was like, oh, all right. So I walk over to this guy to go introduce myself, like give him our intros and all that. I'm like, here's, blah, blah, blah. And I go to talk to him, and he's like writing, like feverishly, like writing in this notebook, and his notebook's like huge, and he just keeps and I went to go introduce myself to him, and I'm like, hey, so are you hosting? He's like, yeah, I'm going up first. And I was like, cool. Hey, I'm Lace, by the way. And he's like, oh, I'm DJ Juicebox. And I was like, cool. Cool, all right.
Hell yeah.
And DJ stands for Duh Comedian James Juicebox on Facebook.
So, I was like, oh, cool. Well, how much time are you planning on doing? He's like, I think like 20. I'm gonna do like 20 minutes, like up front.
Jesus Christ. I'm gonna read this whole notebook.
Yeah, and I was like, oh, cool. So I was like, you do comedy around here? Did you come in from another city? He's like, oh no, I've never done comedy. This is my first time. This is my first time doing comedy tonight. I'm gonna do 20. And I was like, oh, cool. So you've never done comedy like ever? And he's like, no, but I watched a lot of it on Comedy Central. And he said he watched he cited Kevin Hart specifically and said like he had just watched multiple Kevin Hart.
Oh, so I'm just gonna do all of Kevin Hart's jokes?
Yeah, I was going to say the same stuff.
And he's like, yeah, so I watched that, and I've watched a lot on Comedy Central, so I got it. I think I'm going to do 20. And I was trying to coach him through real sweet. I was like, hey, since you've never done comedy,
do 5.
maybe you aim for 5 and do 3. Like maybe,
and be okay with the 3 you managed to sputter out.
I was like, hey, it's really hard to do 20 minutes. That's going to be. I said I know that seems like a short amount of time, but that's a really long time.
Set. Yeah.
And he's like, he just was not hearing it. He's looking at me like, who the fuck are you? Number one. He's like, I don't know you. I didn't see you on Comedy Central.
Yeah. Where were you in the Kevin Hart movie?
You're that chick with the blurry picture. You don't have a proper headshot.
Didn't I see you holding a drink on the poster, talking to a person next to you?
Yeah. So I was like, all right, well, I'm just trying to help you out, but that's cool. You do whatever. Good luck. When you intro me, this is my name. So just say that, and then I'll intro Jarrod after that. Like you don't need to come back up and intro Jarrod. I'll bring him back up. And the guy was just like, all right, whatever. Puts back in his headphones and
his Kevin Hart record.
Yeah, he just keeps. That's probably exactly what it is.
He's got vomit on his sweater, baby. Mom's spaghetti. That's what he's thinking in his mind. And
was it going to be like a minstrel show? He's going to paint himself up and do Kevin Hart.
I ain't scared of you motherfuckers. Kick it.
And I was really rooting for this dude because he had a handful of friends there that were just all excited. He had his girlfriend there who had their baby with them in his car at 10:30. And
why come his wife didn't talk him out of this?
She was all about it. This is DJ Juicebox, dude.
She knows who she married.
She know, yeah. So, the worst part is this is like a smoking bar.
Yeah,
they're smoking. There are toddlers in there.
I thought you were about to say the toddler's smoking.
The toddler was probably smoking. Yeah.
Effectively, yeah.
So DJ
they weren't keeping a good eye on her, so I'm sure she was.
So DJ Juicebox, is that his real stage name, or is this some name that you just invented?
No, I swear to God, he introduced himself as DJ Juicebox. Okay. I will never forget. That's why I'm like, I can talk about it because I'm sure he's not doing. Next thing you know, he's probably got a fucking half hour next.
Yeah.
He's God damn it, DJ Juicebox.
He's in New Faces next year. Oh fuck! God damn it!
Boy, DJ Juicebox has come a long way.
He has, yeah. But yeah, so he was just all pumped up. He got up there and he even had friends, the most, I think the cap of the people who showed up were 10 people were there, and half of them were there to root on DJ Juicebox, and it was literally the most painful thing I've ever seen in my entire life. I felt I didn't feel that bad for him because I tried to give him advice and he literally was like, fuck off. He might as well have said fuck off. He didn't say it, but he looked at me like that. And I was like, all right, cool. And, but anyway, that was.
Do you remember any of the jokes?
Maybe they didn't like Kevin Hart.
One of them, none of them were jokes. So I don't know.
Okay, do you remember any of these sentences he said with his mouth?
There was one sentence where there was this one sentence he tried, and it was about kicking his year and a half, his daughter who was a year and a half years old in the chest.
Oh, I'm sure that was great.
Something about her asking for something or needing something, and then he's like, "Yeah, I kicked her in the chest."
So he's got material about baby beating.
Yeah.
No, I imagine that's a segue into his.
That's his get her done. I kicked her in the chest.
I kicked that baby in the chest.
That's his segue into his Chuck Norris bits.
Oh God.
Chuck Norris cries upside down.
Yeah, he didn't get any kind of, and his friends were so excited when he got up there. I mean, it's just, I would have felt bad if he had any amount of self-awareness at all.
So did he try and do crowd work?
Crowd work the baby.
Yeah, crowd work. I can imagine him with this goes, hey, what you do for a living? Oh, you like sucking dick? and then okay. Oh, that's cool.
It was hard. I just remember that one line, but most of it was so hard. I watched it like it was a horror movie, through my fingers from the back of the room. I was just like, make this be over. And then,
So I had, this was last week, our friend Martin Morrow, past guest of the show, very funny comic from Chicago. He hit me up and was like, hey, I'm taping a thing for Hulu, the Coming to the Stage thing. If you guys wanted to come out, it's a free ticket. And I actually had a couple of friends who are not comics from Alabama visiting me at that exact time. and they'd never been to a TV taping before, and they'd seen this guy doing my shows and stuff. I was like, this is perfect.
Yeah.
So I was like, hey, get me 3 tickets. I'm going to bring a couple of friends who've seen you doing my show back in Alabama back in the day. And Martin was like, all right, cool. So we got our 3 tickets. We go to watch. George Wallace was hosting,
Awesome.
which
that's
was
awesome.
fucking incredible. George Wallace,
How great is he, by the way?
the best.
I was featuring for Alonzo Bowden last year.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, I've
Also
got
the
to
best.
twice. Who
Love
is
Alonzo.
fucking credible, so
Yeah.
fucking smart and funny. Anyway, and so he's good friends with George, and George like lives in Atlanta.
Yeah.
So he just like popped into the show, and Alonzo literally like got off stage and was like, good friend George Wallace is here, and like let him up on the stage to like just fucking work. And he had literally had his notebook, and did the whole and it was so incredible. I've never seen a crowd go crazier in my life. And then Alonzo like gets off and goes back on, like he lets him like come on in the middle of his set.
That's so cool.
It was one of the coolest things.
So I'd never watched George Wallace before, so he comes up and he did probably 15 minutes where he just like pretty much one by one, it was a small room, just roasted the entire crowd, and it was amazing.
Yeah.
So Martin goes up, and I'm not just saying this because he's a friend of mine, fucking crushed. Had the best set of the night, easily. And then there was a couple more comics. And the fun thing about this was that it's a TV taping, but because everything's so damn low budget now, you could see the break room. They had essentially set up a set in this break room, and there was just a jib camera flying overhead, taking, getting the shots. But we're trapped, right? They're taping, so we can't leave. So that thing you were talking about watching with
fingers.
watching through your fingers, can't do that. Can't leave. Trapped. This guy goes up, and I don't remember the guy's name, and even if I did, I wouldn't say it. But he goes up and. His first joke, he goes, I don't know why people get anything on a vanity plate because all we can read is douchebag. And the crowd gave him a polite, I'm on camera TV laugh, like a ha ha ha. And it, like, he thought he was Bernie Mac. I'm scared of you, motherfucker. Like he thought he was gonna kill with that.
Yeah.
And he got in this like awful feedback loop of failure where like he got that little laugh and he's just like, oh, and he's literally doing this. Cameras are rolling.
Poor guy.
This is his fucking
You just
shot.
keep going, dude.
Yeah. And he's just like, oh, and then he's making that noise over and over. Just,
no.
My favorite.
and hold on.
Yeah.
And he's like, oh man, I'm gonna go again. And then he told the same joke again.
No, he didn't.
I swear to God. And I've eaten shit a lot.
Oh, yeah.
I've eaten a mountain of shit in my day. I have never felt this awkward as I did watching this. It wasn't even me up there eating shit. I felt I was like, I wanted to just explode into smoke. That was all I wanted.
Yeah.
And,
Poor guy.
and he goes, he was just like, oh man. And he did the same joke again and it didn't work. And then he's like, oh man, I'm bombing, man. I'm bombing. And I was like, don't say it. I was like, it's TV. They can make you look good.
Just keep going.
Poor guy.
Oh, was it DJ Juicebox?
It might have been DJ Juicebox.
DJ Juicebox.
No, but
hold on.
Yeah, okay.
So he got on TV. There's more to this. I promise that this has a he takes the fucking powder. He left the stage 3 minutes in. He's just like, and walks off. Meanwhile, backstage, George is waiting by the door and he's listening for his cue, which would be after about 10 minutes, there's going to be applause and he's going to walk out. Martin, at this exact moment, decides like, oh, this is a cool moment. I want to get a picture with George. So he goes up and says, hey, George, can I get a picture with you? He's like, oh, sure, man. So they're going to take the picture. At that exact moment, the guy leaves the stage and opens the door. And I have a picture of the guy coming off stage. You can see the crowd behind him with the weirdest, blankest expressions. George is turning around because he has no idea what's happening. And Martin's just giving this like really hilarious, like, kind of look. It's, if you know the context, it's one of the best pictures of all of stand-up comedy.
Because I've been to my share of Montreal showcases, which never, and full disclosure, I've never done one before because I'm not up to that level. But there's ones where managers and stuff will get their young actors, comedic actors on the Montreal ones. And I've literally seen sets where like
they're doing a monologue.
Like it's like two jokes that are like really off color and really just like not even jokes. They're just like
I kicked a baby in the chest.
Yeah, essentially like that. Like, like essentially that. Yeah. And then there's multiple times I've heard them just like break down and just like start yelling what movies they were in, and not even in a funny way, like Brody Stevens.
I was gonna say just Brody Stevens.
Yeah. I was in Weekend at Bernie's. I was in Weekend at Bernie's too. Not even like that.
Weekend at Bernie's 3. The project was canceled.
Not enough funds. Couldn't get the capital. But it was.
But what pisses me off?
But they
bad.
do like. One guy was just like, you know who I am? I was in there, and it was just like I was sitting there like, this is so amazing.
I'm Dax Shepard.
Yeah.
Oh man!
I think if we've learned one thing today, it's when people get too competitive, shit gets stupid.
I know.
Yeah. Except cheerleading. Gets
Except
better.
cheerleading, because that
That gets painful.
yeah.
I think it's. I looked it up by the way. It's called like acro cheer or something like that.
Acro.
There's actually videos of it, I think.
Yeah, you can watch.
He's been looking it up too.
But yeah,
Well, we were
it's pretty
Googling
incredible.
them, but then we moved on to something
Specifically,
else.
look up like I think it's like Oregon, like is incredible.
Yeah.
Anyway, but besides that, no. What pisses me off about the actors getting those spots? Like, do you know how many fucking comedians need to be in those spots? How many great comics are just out there that no one
I agree.
knows
I
that
agree.
need to be seen in those moments?
I had a friend that
there's-
waited 6 months to get on at one of the big clubs in New York, and when her night came, she got bumped because some rapper decided he wanted to be a
want to do
stand-up.
comedy that night.
Was it Kanye?
If you're doing anything, I don't care who it was. If you're doing anything else in the entertainment industry, don't do stand-up.
Yeah,
it's
it's not
the
one of those
lowest
things you
part
can
of the
fucking
totem
pick
pole.
up.
Yeah.
Name one successful comedian that just fucking picked up comedy after they were already famous in another thing.
Michael Richards?
Wait, but I think he did stand up first.
No,
didn't
he was an improv guy. No, that's
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
That's
Well,
why he couldn't handle
that's
a
why he
heckler.
couldn't handle the heckler.
Yeah,
why.
no, but it's like,
Gotcha.
it's not to say that, like, I don't deserve shit. Like, I don't deserve those spots that Blake Griffin and others are taking. But it's
Blake
like,
Griffin.
but it's
Oh
just
my
like,
God.
there are people that.
But no, there are so many comics though. That
Yeah,
deserve
and I
those
mean, it's
spots.
like not like it's the person that would replace the actor would get on JFL, because it is kind of just like they have their own ideas of what they want, probably. But it would be nice to throw a bone to certain comedians. or
Yeah,
whatever,
there might be 4 of them sitting around a table in East Hollywood right now.
Exactly.
Not me.
Realistic.
I
I'm
know.
only asking for money. I don't care what you put me on.
Yeah.
You can pay me not to go on stage,
Yeah.
and that's fine with me.
Oh my God! What if that was your shtick? What if that was it?
you'd be-
Oh, I could
audience
work
member.
on that easy.
Yeah.
You'd be the job squad of comedy. Pin me, pay me.
Hey, give me money. I don't give a rat's ass.
I just want to be booked.
I don't go to a thing I'm not booked at. It's a long-standing tradition.
You know very well what you are. You're my sugar thing, my chocolate star.
Lace, where can people find you on the internet?
I'm at Lace Larrabee on everything. And,
Okay.
Larrabee is not spelled the way it was spelled in
Get Smart.
No, it's Larrabee. And there's probably some shitty videos of me on YouTube that people won't take down that I've asked to take down. But yeah.
I don't want to be obnoxious, but is
Sure.
is Lace your first name? Like,
Yeah,
or is
Lace.
it okay?
It's my
okay,
real name,
cool.
birth name.
Yeah, I wasn't sure if it was like Lacey or
Nope.
you went. That's cool.
Yep, everyone asked me that. It's not. No.
Yeah.
So, real original question.
No, I was
Yeah,
just
no.
curious.
I know, Pat. Get with it.
Sorry.
First you call her a fly girl, and now you're...
So is it Pat or is it like Patsy or?
Yeah,
what
it's
is,
short for
It's Patrick.
It's short
Yeah.
for. It's indeed short for Patsy.
He used to be in the
Pat Smear?
NBA.
Pat Smear?
Yeah, a little known fact. I am Pat Smear. I just lowered my voice for podcasts.
Oh man.
Pat Smear.
If you get a chance...
Shout out to my show House of Style. I hosted it.
well, if you get a chance, go out there and go see Lace on the road.
Thanks.
When you're not watching acro cheer videos.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Go look
watch
at
that
Acro
shit
Cheer.
first. It's way cooler than what I do.
and then go see Lace and Jarrod, because God knows they're coming to your town soon.
Yeah, always, constantly on the road. And also, we have a project that we started a couple years ago, and then are just now getting back into it again. But the Ricky Orlando show.
Oh yeah, fucking
Ricky
hilarious.
Orlando. It's Orlando Erlando, but it's super fucking funny. It's like animated, and we've tried different mediums, but we've recently had it animated, but it's been stop motion. It's like mixed media, and he and I get together and write a lot of those. And
Those are hilarious. I've watched a few of
The
those.
title of it will alone
Yeah,
just
Ricky
makes
Orlando.
it sound awesome.
Yeah, it's great. It's great. It's great. Yeah.
Well-
and then upcoming, we're getting married. So yeah, Jared and I.
All right.
Excellent.
That's
Yeah.
we've got that. Yeah. So if
What-
anybody, I don't know.
When's the date and what's the venue?
Well, it may or may not be in. There's a place that may or may not still be standing next year, so it could be knocked down. But I totally want to put all my eggs in that basket and get married because it's an abandoned church that's turned into a comedy club in Atlanta.
Oh, the relapse.
Excellent.
Yeah, the Relapse Theater.
Oh,
so
okay.
that'll be
that's
fun.
why I really, really want to get married. But if that doesn't work out, somewhere else,
Yeah.
it's super cheap.
Well, congratulations.
Thanks. But it'll be
always-
next year. It'll be a year.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's a great day.
I'm excited.
You can find us on Facebook, facebook.com/thegoodspod. We're on Twitter @thegoodspod, youtube.com/thegoodspod. Putting up a lot of fun clips over there. Pat, what should they do when they get to iTunes?
Rate, review, and subscribe. My name is not short for Patsy. I'm serious, and I'm really serious.
Don't call him Patsy in that
Please,
review.
please don't. It's short for Patricia. But indeed, rate, review, and subscribe. And by doing that, you show the attitude of gratitude.
And if you do not have the attitude of gratitude, then fuck you.
We'll see you next week. Alrighty, that's our show for the week. Thank you so much for listening to the Goods from the Woods podcast. We really do appreciate each and every one of you. Hey, if you like live comedy, I'm going to be down south doing some stand-up shows. Come check me out in Atlanta on April 24th. I'm going to be doing 2 shows that night. One at 7 p.m. That'll be at Sweetwater Brewing Company. That's a brewery show. That should be a lot of fun if you like the beer. And at 9 o'clock, I'll be at Laughing Skull Lounge over in Midtown. If you've never been to the Laughing Skull Lounge, it's one of my favorite venues in all of comedy. So be sure to come check me out there. I'm super excited to be playing that place. And the next night, April 25th, I'll be in Montgomery, Alabama at a bar called Head on the Door that's out on Vaughn Road doing a show with our friend Kurt Keller. Should be a real good one. Please come out if you're in Central Alabama and you want to come see me do some stand-up. And April 22nd, that's Earth Day. That's the previous Saturday. I'm going to be hosting, once again, the Waverly Boogie, the 17th annual Waverly Boogie. And it is a great music festival. You can get tickets now at standarddeluxe.com. My favorite day of the year. So come out and see me. I'll be hosting the show. Not doing a lot of comedy, really, just more like announcing bands and, telling people to not smoke cigarettes in the cemetery, stuff like that. So, but it's a really great day, and you can come hang out and, bring your cooler, bring your blanket, bring your family. It's a really fun day for everybody. Song of the week this week, a band that has performed at, I think, 16 out of 17 boogies. This is the 17th annual boogie, and I'm pretty sure this band has played at every one of them except for one. The band is the Pine Hill Haints. They are one of my favorite bands of all time, and they just so happen to have started in my hometown of Auburn, Alabama. They put out a record in 2007 called Ghost Dance. Playing a tune from that one right now. This is an old song. Louis Armstrong made this one famous, but this is the Pine Hill Haints rendition of the St. James Infirmary Blues.
I went down to St. James Infirmary. I saw my Becky there. She was laid out along one table. So cold, so cool, so fair. Let her go, God bless her. Wherever she might be, yeah, you can search the whole world over. Never find another sweet man like me. When I die, wrap me in white linen.
Goods from the Woods was mixed, edited, and distributed by me, Rivers Langley. You can find the show on Twitter at The Goods Pod. Our theme song was composed by DJ Smiles. Check him out on Twitter at DJ Smiles.